And welcome to The Verdict. I'm Kent Meyers, and as you can see, I'm by myself today, except for the guest we're going to have. Mick Cornett will not be here for the next 2 or 3 weeks, but we'll struggle along without him and be glad when he is able to return. Our political season really is upon us now, and while we aren't a political show as such, we do try to give you information we think may be useful to you when you go render your verdict at the ballot box. And today we're going to be bringing to you a Republican candidate for Attorney General, James Dunn. James is running hard for the Attorney General position. And we hope today we're going to let you meet James Dunn, find out what he's about, what he's interested in, how he thinks he would run the Attorney General's office should he be elected. So let's stay with it. We'll take a little break. We'll be back with James Dunn. You're watching The Verdict. See you in a minute.
For one Oklahoma-based company, success didn't happen overnight. Initially, the days were long, 80-hour weeks common. As we grew, we wanted to share our success, and the ideals of corporate and civic responsibility found a welcome home. Today, we're the largest investor in the Sooner State and a source for exciting, new, high-quality jobs. We're Chesapeake Energy, committed to building a better Oklahoma.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
Hello? Anybody home?
Hi.
Digital Max, welcome to the neighborhood. Hello, kid. Whoa, I haven't seen a digital tangle like that since... Yeah. You need Cox Connections. With one connection, you get the whole digital enchilada. Kind of like this.
Wow.
What are you waiting for?
Get one connection to all your digital services from Cox.
I think I pulled something.
Your friend in the digital age.
The Cox Channel. More sports. More fans. More cheerleaders. More fun. Nobody does more local sports, and nobody does it better.
And welcome back to The Verdict. I'm Kent Meyers, and with me today is James Dunn. James is a Republican candidate for the office of Attorney General. He lives in rural Oklahoma County. He is a lawyer, of course, running for Attorney General. He did his undergraduate work at the University of Central Oklahoma and his law work at Oklahoma City University. He has been in private practice about 14 years here in the Oklahoma City, Oklahoma County area. He is also a graduate of the University of Oklahoma's College of Advocacy program. This is his first, and we hope not his last, visit to The Verdict. James, welcome.
Well, I thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you. As I told our viewers at the outset, we're trying to give the viewers as much insight into the humans running for these offices as we can to get them to know you better. So would you please tell me your professional background, anything about your life that you'd like to tell me so our viewers will know who is James Dunn?
I think if you wanted to know the most important thing about James Dunn is I truly do love the Lord with all my life, with all my heart. I mean, my family, we're centered with those type of moral convictions. And I think that that represents Oklahoma's interest. We are part of the Bible Belt, and I believe that Oklahoma has these type of issues at the forefront of their thoughts. With that, I've taken my life to a turn to where we've got a wonderful practice. Been in private practice since my career began, and I've represented more than 1,400 Oklahomans. And from that stand, I'm able to get a good grasp and feel for Oklahoma people dealing with their small businesses and them individually. So,
Now, you practice law in the Oklahoma City area.
Yes, the firm is in Oklahoma City, Mr. Meyers, but I've traveled across the state. I've tried cases in Atoka, Durant, Ada, Elk City, Oklahoma City, Guthrie, across the state of Oklahoma. I've been representing people from Oklahoma.
Well, I've known of you for a while and have had a matter or two with you, and I know how pleasant it is to deal with you even if we're on the other side. How does civility in the practice of law fit into what you think is important?
I think it's very important to be civil. I mean, the trial setting and representing your client doesn't have to be just all-out brawl. Sometimes people think that's what it is, but it's not. Because you have judges and educated people and attorneys on the other side that understand the law. So it's a matter of arguing the point of law in your client's best interest. And I think it's just like anything else. If you will show dignity and respect, it will go a lot farther away than being just kind of really hard to deal with.
Well, let me change the subject just a minute. Let's talk about the Office of Attorney General a little bit. As I introduced you, and of course you are a Republican candidate for Attorney General. The current Attorney General is a Democrat. Just what place does the partisan political part of the campaign play in being a good Attorney General?
I think the Office of Attorney General, as far as the political background of it, they're basically the people that try to help you get in office and promote their cause. But my view of the Attorney General office is much more like that of a judgeship. It should be nonpartisan. It should be, I've been a Republican all my life, don't misunderstand me, and I'm proud to be a Republican. But my view is the Attorney General, we don't make law as Attorney General, we enforce the law, and we should represent the will of the people and look to the people's interests first.
Representative Treblecock from Tulsa has from time to time, along with others, made some proposals that the Constitution be amended or the statutes be amended to turn elective offices into appointive offices. Let me change the subject just a little bit with the AG. Do you think the AG ought to be an elected individual, or should that be an appointive position by the governor?
I absolutely believe it should be elected offices.
And why is that?
It's one of the most powerful offices in the state of Oklahoma, in my opinion. Under Title 74, Section 18B, Paragraph 3, the Attorney General has a right to get into any civil or criminal matter that affects the state of Oklahoma, but most importantly, if it affects the people of Oklahoma. And that, to me, is a huge amount of power to be able to jump in. So I think the people should choose that person. I do believe with Representative Treblecock and some of the other legislators up there that there need to be a little bit of change. The change I would suggest is put a term limit on the office. Our governor's term limited, the senators are term limited, so are the representatives. I think the Attorney General's office should have a term limit also.
If it did have a term limit, what would you think would be an appropriate term limit?
Three terms, 12 years is about as far as I could imagine it should go.
Now, the Attorney General's staff at the current time is roughly 70, 75 lawyers. It's quite a large law firm in Oklahoma standards. Do you feel like that the staff is about the right size, or is it too large or too small?
I would think with everything they have to do, it probably could be increased somewhat. The Attorney General represents so many interests for the state of Oklahoma and the people of Oklahoma. That's what the office should be about. And instead of having to go out and hire outside counsel, I think that the Attorney General's office will be much more effective with more qualified. There's a lot of good people down at the Attorney General's office, very good attorneys down there, and they dedicate their life for public service, and I do believe that they should have an increased staff.
Then, if the staff were increased, do you envision that as perhaps having a diminishing effect on how much outside counsel is needed, how much money goes to outside lawyers to do the work of the state?
No doubt about it. There are times when maybe outside counsel should be hired, but remember, we're representing the interest of the people of Oklahoma and the state of Oklahoma, and I think that good Attorney General staff members and assistant attorney generals will have much better grasp and loyalty to that than private entities.
The Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the state, and you did mention that it has great power or great authority. Do you, as you view those powers, think they're about right, Do you think they're too large? Does the AG have too much power, or are there other things the AG ought to be able to do that they can't do right now?
I think the power is about right. It is a big office. It's a lot of power in that office under our Constitution and the statutes enabling the Attorney General. Under Title 74, basically the Attorney General has unfettered power to get in any type of litigation and represent the state, render Attorney General's opinion, which are very important to us, and to actually look to the interest of the people of Oklahoma. That's what an Attorney General should be doing. And with that, you don't want to be limited, because a lot of times we're dealing in litigation, and I think it takes an attorney who's been there, who understands the process, to make a lot of those calls. Therefore, I would leave it where it was at, with the caveat of course, putting term limits on that office.
Now, in your own practice, you've done a good bit of trial work yourself, have you not?
I have. In fact, I was just in jury trial last week, just finished up one.
Well, I hope it turned out well for your client.
We won, we hit a good verdict for them, and the clients are very happy.
Do you think the AG ought to have some kind of prosecution experience, criminal prosecution experience? I know the current AG does. I haven't noticed that on your resume, but you've probably been involved in criminal cases.
You know, I'm not a criminal defense attorney, and I'm not a former prosecutor, and I think that's one of the reasons why the people need to elect me as Attorney General, because I don't have any bias. I'm not related to any senators or any representatives. I have no political ties. My motive and my dedication is to the people of the state of Oklahoma. Reading the criminal code and understanding how to prosecute a criminal case is just like any other case I've prosecuted on behalf of my clients. I've prosecuted them and I've defended them down at the courthouse across this state. Going into the criminal matter is just another type of case that can be handled. Once you're a trial attorney, once you have that experience, you can handle it.
Let me jump right in here and get us to a break. We're visiting with James Dunn, the Republican candidate for Attorney General. We'll be right back.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of the verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And Blankenship has stopped at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play. Leaving it 4th and 7 on the Tiger 46-yard line. 38 seconds on the clock. The Tigers have no choice but to go for it. Wiggins in to do the kicking. Here's the snap. And the kick is away.
RSM McGladrey. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyers have the resources and the experience. RSM McGladrey. In Oklahoma City, the phone number is 405-843-5311.
¿Eres tú?
There you go. Cox Communications está buscando empleados entusiásticos y motivados.
Disfruta de nuestros beneficios, pago competitivo, grandes ventajas y oportunidades para el adelante.
Si desea hacer una diferencia,
tenemos un lugar para usted aquí con Cox Communications.
Visítanos en la internet o llame para ver qué oportunidades tenemos para usted aquí en Cox.
¿Eres tú?
Cox Communications está orgulloso de ofrecer igualdad de empleos.
Not sure where you're headed? NATS can help you find your way. It's the National Athletic Testing System. We call it NATS. You'll call it your launching pad to success. NATS will give you a standardized evaluation that will help you measure your performance and give that information to college coaches so they can accurately evaluate your potential. NATS also helps with academic support. Join with the Oklahoma High School Football Coaches Association and head for success at www.nats.us.
And welcome back to The Verdict. I'm Kent Meyers. Mick Cornett will be back in 2 or 3 weeks to join us again. But today we're visiting with James Dunn, a Republican candidate for Attorney General. James, we've been talking about some of your background and experience, but I want you to kind of tell our viewers now, why do you think James Dunn is qualified to be Oklahoma's Attorney General?
Because I was raised in Oklahoma, just like most of the viewers. I'm self-educated as far as I worked my way through law school and undergrad. And with that, I've been able to practice law across the state since 1992, trying cases for Oklahomans and their small businesses. I represent the interest of the people. I'm admitted to the United States Supreme Court to practice, the 10th Court of Appeals, every federal district in the state of Oklahoma, along with every state courthouse. And I've tried cases in most of those, except for the Supreme Court. With that qualification, I represent the people with my skills, and I believe that Oklahoma will be very satisfied, as my 1,400 clients are.
Let's talk about the Republican primary. Of course, we don't necessarily know who all the challengers might be on the Republican side, but you've not had a race before, I guess.
That is correct.
Race.
That is correct.
And certainly a statewide race can be a formidable challenge.
It's a big race.
How do you view your chances in the Republican primary to start off with?
Excellent. We've been on the road. I've been personally on the road since July of '05, traveling about 1,000 miles a week, meeting Oklahomans. I did that last week and the week before. Well, last week I actually did a trial. The week before, and I'll do that this week and next week until the race is over. We have offices set up, one in Tulsa, campaign office, one in Oklahoma City, and we're 500 volunteers strong right now today. So I think the momentum of this grassroots campaign that we represent is taking fire.
Well, and I might just say to our viewers, in the fourth segment, when we call up the Verdict website, we will call up James Dunn's website as well, so you'll know how to get in touch with him, but we'll wait to do that near the end of the show. Of course, I'm sure running a statewide campaign is expensive.
Definitely is.
Will money be a problem for you?
It's not going to be a problem, and I'll tell you why, because the people are behind us. We have put our case in front of the people of Oklahoma. That's who I want to represent. And let me tell you what, I would rather a $20 contribution from every hardworking Oklahoma than any type of good old boy that has some kind of political agenda and take a big check from them. The people of Oklahoma are sending us checks. We appreciate those contributions, and we will raise the money to stay competitive and beat my opponent.
Well, let's kind of focus on the current Attorney General, Drew Edmondson, who's been a guest on this show a number of times. What do you see as the principal differences or issues from James Dunn versus Drew Edmondson?
I believe in the people, and I believe in our moral heritage. Let me give you an example. This year, or actually in 2005, just a month or so ago, was 2005, the Attorney General was asked by Representative Jim Newport to represent and defend Haskell County, who had been sued by the ACLU for a 10 Commandments display in the courthouse steps. Mr. Edmondson refused and turned his back on him and wouldn't do it. Under the Attorney General statute, Title 74, 18B, paragraph 3, he can jump in that case or any other case. He has chosen to put us in cases in New Jersey to go against the Boy Scouts to represent homosexual interests. I don't believe Oklahoma stands for that. I think Oklahoma, we believe we have the right to acknowledge God, and as James Dunn is the Attorney General, I will fight for those interests.
Well, we have had a couple of shows actually on the display, one on the display of 10 Commandments, had a debate about it. On public property, one constitutional scholar saying it should be permitted, another constitutional scholar taking the opposite view. Do you have a view on what you think the law is about the display of the 10 Commandments and whether that is prohibited?
I have a view on the law, and I think the law is a little bit skewed and misplaced, and that's why I'm running for Oklahoma Attorney General, because to go to the Supreme Court, which I'm admitted to practice, for me as the Attorney General to argue on behalf of the displays of the 10 Commandments, because that's part of our history. We were founded on these principles. Now, I don't want the government telling you or me or anybody else we have to be a Catholic or Protestant or Baptist. That's our own free choice. That's what the Establishment Clause was for. But I don't want them to try to erase, and these minority activists like the ACLU are trying to erase from our history the 10 Commandments and our traditional background. So When the Attorney General is standing in front of the United States Supreme Court, that's the state of Oklahoma saying, we believe otherwise, and U.S. Supreme Court, we think you're wrong, and you need to relook at that issue. And that's what I propose to do. There's been a lot of discussion in the papers and elsewhere about the poultry litigation where Oklahoma is suing Arkansas, poultry producers. And that, of course, has spawned a subsequent suit where the state of Arkansas is suing the state of Oklahoma for getting into their business, apparently. What about this poultry litigation? If you were AG, how would you see that? Okay, I've made a stand on that, and I'll tell you straight out, and the viewers straight out. When James Dunn is Attorney General, I will terminate the poultry lawsuit. I will fire Mike Turpin and those outside trial attorneys, and I will terminate that lawsuit because we have to have clean water. I want clean water. I have a farm that my family and 3 children and wife live on. We need clean water. But filing a mass civil tort action against agriculture, and he's asked, the current Attorney General's asking that lawsuit that animal waste, manure, chicken litter, any type of waste product, be categorized and set precedents that that's a hazardous material. That will break agriculture in Oklahoma because that will enable anybody to sue if you've got an animal, if you've got herd or livestock, and you're producing animal waste, which you are, you have to be sued for hazardous material. That is not in our interest because 1/5 of our economy of Oklahoma is based on agriculture. Those cases are wrong. The people can come together, the industry can come together and fix it, just like OERB did with the oil field. You know, back in
good sponsor of the verdict, by the way.
Are they really?
They are
didn't. You know, back in 1979, I helped, Dad and I on the farm had to fence in a mud pit from an abandoned well site. The oil bust was there. There was a pit there. Our cows were getting in it. We were afraid they were going to die, so we had to fence it off. And the OERB put itself together voluntarily and has cleaned up to this day over 6,000 well sites. That same type of cooperation can be done with poultry and agriculture and our water systems. And I've talked to the legislatures, the senators and representatives. I've yet to find one that is in support of this litigation. So let me summarize your position on this, but let me do it correctly. You do believe there is a problem or a potential for a problem with the litter. You just solve it differently. I believe there is a problem, but I don't think litter is the only problem. You know, the interesting thing is why our Attorney General is ignoring OSU's lab, because OSU's lab says we really can't determine exactly what the cause of this is. The Attorney General has reached out to Colorado to hire some other independent lab to try to look at it. I have great faith in OSU and their labs up there. They're not sure what the problem is. They can't say it's just poultry. There's fertilization from golf courses along the lakes and riverways. There's people dumping sewage. And there's cities that also spread their sand from their waste sites in the river. There's a whole bunch of things that need to be done to clean it up. But what I do know is enabling a bunch of trial attorneys to sue agriculture is not the answer. We can solve this problem. Oklahoma did it in the oil field with the with the oil field abandoned sites. We can do it with our creeks and rivers. Well, James, let's take about the last minute or so that we have today and just ask you to look at the camera and tell our viewers why their verdict should be to check James Dunn's name when they go to the ballot box. Because James Dunn, I am not a career politician. I want to represent you, the people of Oklahoma. I've represented more than 1,400 Oklahomans in their small business, and I have taken the forefront fight for the behalf of Oklahoma. I have represented people fighting the abuse of eminent domain and will do so as the Attorney General. I will stand up for our right to acknowledge God, and I will fight corruption in office. I don't care if they're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. If they're in office and they're corrupt, James Dunn will prosecute. James, thank you so much for coming. I know our viewers are pleased to hear from you, and we'll hear more about you as the campaign progresses. We really appreciate you giving us your time and allowing our viewers to have a better idea of what their verdict ought to be at the ballot box. We've been visiting with James Dunn, and we'll be right back.
Okiwani is an Indian name for a place where children play. When we obtained the camp, we found a lot of oil debris left in the woods. We saw a commercial about how the oil and natural gas industry cleans up old oil well sites. We called the OERB and they agreed to remove tons of concrete and steel. It didn't cost us a thing. Thousands of children have left their footprints on this land. Thanks to the oil and gas industry, they will for a long time to come.
Bringing out the best in each student. That is the simple goal and tradition of Heritage Hall. The focus on the individual shapes the educational experience at Heritage Hall. Each student benefits from small classes, able, dedicated teachers, a solid academic curriculum, and exceptional co-curricular programs of athletics, arts, community service, and other activities, parental involvement, personalized counseling, and the development of responsibility, integrity, and love of learning. If you want education taught with pride, then you want Heritage Hall.
You need this one to get satellite HD. This one's your DVR. This one's for local channels. This one's...
What are we supposed to do with all this stuff?
Got you covered. Oh, by the way, that old satellite stuff makes a great end table.
That doesn't look so bad, right, honey?
Don't live in satellite denial. Get the latest entertainment without the hassles. From Cox, your friend in the digital age.
The Cox Channel. More sports. More fans. More cheerleaders. More fun. Nobody does more local sports, and nobody does it better.
Thanks to James Dunn for joining us on The Verdict, Republican candidate for Attorney General. And let me give you James Dunn's website that I promised. It's www.okattorneygeneral.com. You can get on that website and be in touch with James and his people, and I know they'd like to hear from you. Also, we want to know what you would like to hear about future shows. We want to know what you think, people you'd like to see us contact and get on the show. So please go to our website, theverdict.tv. We would love to hear from you, as we always do. I will be next week talking to Ernest Istook. See you then.
The preceding program was produced by the Production Services Group at Cox Communications, exclusively for the Cox Channel.